So we're going to get into why you would use the Metal X. So one main reason you would use the Metal X is to lower lead times on parts than traditional manufacturing. A lot of these manufacturing houses have very long lead times. They're very busy and you might need a part produced and they might tell you 3 to 6 weeks to get a simple part produced. Well, a lot of times that's just not acceptable and you need to get these turned around fast so you can get your stuff back up and running. Another thing is we can save time and money. Casting, for instance, can be very expensive and very time consuming to be able to get all that stuff up and running. So if you can print these parts versus casting them, then you are up in saving time and money and resources into that. Another big thing is we have gone to places and they see inventory sitting on the shelves of hundreds of parts that may possibly never get used again as far as replacement parts. Well, why keep all those parts sitting on the shelf collecting dust when we could simply just store all this at a digital inventory and print it out as needed? Legacy parts. Well, what's a legacy part? That's an old part. So say you had an older car that they don't produce parts anymore and you needed a door handle off of an old vehicle. We could simply, scan part of the old one and reproduce that using our software, and then manufacture that using our Metal X system to create you a part for an old car that you cannot find parts for anymore. Another great use for the Metal X is lightweighting. Because we have the option of doing an infill pattern and not creating a completely solid part on the inside, we can make these parts a lot lighter than traditional machining or casting. Reducing machine downtime. A lot of casted and machined parts can be heavy. So when we reduce that weight, it also reduces stress on your machines, whether those are assembly lines or moving actuators and stuff like that. The lighter it is, the easier it can move, the less chance you have to break these parts. So reducing that machine downtime obviously results in saving you time and money as you keep production up and going. When we use the Metal X, so say you have a part that is broken on the assembly line, it's a hard part to machine, we can simply just print that out. In 3 days, you have a part back up on your assembly line running and you are making money. Another really good application for these is the custom tools. So on the far right, we have what we call a crow's foot. Now this is a custom design for a sensor, and these traditionally would be casted and then finished machined afterwards. But with the Metal X, we can simply just model this part up and then print it out afterwards and we can use it. This, again, makes these parts come out very fast versus traditional manufacturing processes. Especially if these parts are expensive to machine, we can cut the cost down significantly by printing these out in-house. It also gives us the freedom to do complex shapes. We're not just stuck with a 2 or 3 axis machine. We can, potentially print more or less whatever we want within reason. Other uses we have is for testing. A lot of people have different design changes and they may have a couple iterations of a file that they want, and it may be costly to produce that part in different versions. So we can print these out, prove the concept out, and then you can go into mass production afterwards. Another thing that we do very well is generative design. Now, generative design is very organic shapes, can be very hard to machine, very expensive to machine. So being able to print these out overnight and have them back up and running on whatever equipment that it may be used for in a few days can be a real game changer for your business. So I did want to touch base on a few of the real world applications that CamLogic has seen here. So on the left, we have a generative design bracket. We did this for lightweighting and to keep the part very light and nimble during its use. As you can tell, we've kind of taken a lot of material out of this, which would be difficult to machine like this. They use this a lot in the aerospace industry because anytime you can lighten things up, especially in an airplane, you save on fuel, and fuel is money. So very good applications. The top side of that surface has actually been machined here at CamLogic. That's why you can see that it's very, very smooth and very shiny. We have a dedicated staff that can run all this equipment and machines. So if you need secondary operations, we can take care of that as well for you. Design changes, the one in the middle there, we had a couple different iterations of this part here, and finally we got the customer exactly what they were wanting to after a couple different designs that they had sent us. Traditionally, it would have been very expensive to manufacture us the way they were doing it, so we did it for them, saved them time and money, and they got the part they needed and back up to production in a record time. Another good fit application for this is actuated levers. So on assembly lines, little actuators and stuff push and move things around into different categories, and a lot of times the plastics just won't hold up. They can be difficult to machine and time consuming, so if you can print different actuator levers and things out on the fly, that is very, very handy and good to know. I did also want to note that CamLogic does have all this equipment at our location, along with a very, very large selection of Markforged composite printers, so we can keep up with the bandwidth if you need parts for production and you're not interested in actually purchasing hardware itself. We do have some other platforms, so if there is a different type of material that you did not see on the metal side, it might be in the plastics, we can usually accommodate those needs as well. Everything we do here is in-house with our dedicated staff, very knowledgeable, and we take pride on that.